So who do we turn to when we need some help? Who are you going to call? Stephanie Baker.
That's right. Not Ghostbusters at all. It is Stephanie Baker.
Life in Abundance Counseling. We're thinking about kids and getting back to school. And so Stephanie's going to help us walk through help for parents and help for the teachers as well.
Yeah. All right. Let's just jump right in. Stephanie, tell me, so as a parent, how can we help get our kids ready for that first day of school and what that looks like?
Oh, gosh. Well, I tell you what, one of the things that I would recommend doing is to start them on a routine at least a week before the first day of school. And by routine, what we're talking about is going to be normal or consistent bedtime, normal, consistent wake time. And I'm sure they're just going to love that, but that's something that's important to do. And it also helps you as well. I would also recommend, starting to limit the use of electronics at nighttime, because really, honestly, that metabolizes as adrenaline. So that's a good rule for adults as well. We just want to make sure that also limiting some social media stuff to before school, get them into the routine. It'll help make the transition easier.
Yeah, seriously, I don't even put my phone in my room. It's in another room completely. I charge it up that way. One thing that, Stephanie, you say is grace. It's so needed as you try to figure out how this new school year and how the routine is going to look.
Yes, because what we start out with, there's still so many questions right now about what the return is going to look like, depending on the school, depending on the grade. So give yourself some grace, because what it starts out right now to look like, it may change, moving into the winter months. It may change again in the spring. We just really don't know. But I would just encourage you to have patience with yourself, have patience with other caregivers in your home, spouses, knowing that it's going to change, and kind of let your kids know that the possibility exists for that too. One suggestion that we would make is to maybe have a family calendar of events where everybody has access so they can all see it. And they have permission to add their events. When people in a family take part in that, there's ownership in it, but it also gives everybody a bigger picture at one time. Because I think a lot of parents, we're walking around with all the details in our heads, but our kids don't know, that brother or sister may have another event coming up. I talked to a client of mine, and she said the only way that she has gotten through, and actually it wasn't a client, it was somebody else, but the only way that she's gotten through with her family, with everything, because they were all working remotely and having, online school. This is before the end of the year. They had to have that so they could stagger the use of the internet. And it really helped them because, husband might have had a Zoom meeting, she might have had a Zoom meeting, and then of course online with the school. So to try to manage that, it just helped everybody to be able to see everything in one place.
Right. So how do we, because I know some of the kids, they've gone through so many different things, maybe the loss of a loved one, that kind of thing. They're anxious about going back to school, but how do we encourage them as parents?
Okay, so one of the things, and again, this is going to be for parents too, I think is important, is to look for the good and the positive. It's difficult to imagine trying to accomplish anything right now other than simple learning and trying to implement new survival, techniques for our routines. But what we really have to do is realize that everything that is going on in the world can cause anxiety in us and our kids. And I think if we were all honest, we would all say that we felt some anxiety at some point during this time of uncertainty. But to realize that in those times of anxiety, what can happen is we can develop what's called a negative filter. And that negative filter is like putting on a pair of glasses that will only allow you to see anything that will support the negative filter. And so we have to be aware that that's kind of what we're experiencing, and work, as Romans 12:2 would tell us, to renew our minds. So maybe talking with the kids, not ignoring the negative, but talking about the things that are going right, the things that are going well. There may be some very frustrating things, but not everything is frustrating. And so to help us get a more balanced attitude, talking about the things that are going well. And your kids may very well surprise you if you have that conversation with them. You may be the one that's uplifted, not them. So they're more resilient, I think, sometimes than we are. So that's one of the things that we would talk about, is understanding, just enumerating the blessings that we see, and maybe, age appropriately have the conversation. Guys, what do you think God is wanting us to see here? What do you think God is wanting us to learn in these challenges?
Stephanie Baker along with us, Life in Abundance Counseling, talking about students and also the teachers, because the teachers are going to be going back to school. They're going to be helping the kids and themselves. So, Stephanie, there's one thing that you say, and that is to build relationships.
Yeah. I was having a conversation yesterday with a teacher and a parent, and we were talking about what that looks like from both perspectives. And the teachers, there's so much that they have responsibility to do in the course of a certain amount of time during the day with our kids, but just jumping back into academia is probably not the wisest thing to do right now upon return. What we want to try to do as much as we can is to build relationships. Some of them, the students may be familiar, and others, they're brand new to the teacher, and vice versa. And so getting to know them, taking time to get reacquainted with them and maybe form some deeper relationships than what you had before COVID started. But it creates a more supportive environment where everybody has a better chance to heal. The kids are not the only ones who've experienced things since COVID hit. Teachers are going to be coming back, and they may be experiencing having loved ones that have been, sheltered or isolated due to illness, or they may have experienced the loss of a loved one. So everybody having a little bit of a deeper understanding of who we all are as we're coming back.
All right. What about when the kids come up to the teachers and ask those questions, not necessarily they were prepared for? It's not really, under their normal day of academia. How do you handle that? I think
the best thing to do is to be authentic. And if you don't have an answer, be truthful about that, whatever is being asked. I'm not sure, but we'll find out. We can talk about that together and explore, what the answer might be. When it comes to working with the kids, we do want to make sure that we're creating an environment of safety also as much as possible, and empower the kids to be able to take care of themselves during the day as far as what possibly the virus may look like, and protection and protocols for that, encouraging them instead of hugging, do their, elbow greeting, that kind of stuff, but just making information easily and accessible for things like that. The deeper things, that talks a little bit more about connection, which is really what most kids are going to be wanting from their teachers. And so that means being present in the moment, listening, making eye contact. And there's a difference. There's a difference between attention and connection. Attention is going to be when we are really trying to stop an unwanted behavior. It's more of that in the moment response. Connection, which kids need for growth and development, is really more about being in the moment and listening. Again, making that eye contact and hearing what the child or the young person is trying to say, and acknowledging that they've been heard. Everybody wants to know they've been heard.
Well, let me tell you. At first, I'm surrounded by two very smart women right here with Stephanie and Liz. And when they said academia, I thought they were saying macadamia. I'm thinking, what do nuts have to do with this?
We all may feel a little nuts.
Is that right? Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Stephanie Baker, Life in Abundance Counseling, thank you so much for the time. All of this and more that Stephanie was talking about will be on the Rob and Liz blog. You'll see that a part of the podcast as well. That's at hisradio.com.